Hey guys, Mutant XP live with another edition of the Mutant XPerience podcast tonight. Very excited about tonight's show. My special guest, all the way from SoCal, Ken Oro, SoCal player, Red Venom, formerly known as Red Venom, now known as Big Game James. Now, okay, James, I'm gonna put this out there because I want us to have a pretty easygoing night. But
Sure.
I'm a big Lakers fan. You know,
Okay.
my father who passed away a couple years ago, R.I.P. He got me into basketball. He got me into the Lakers, and I was just old enough to sort of remember that Showtime era. Like I think I was about like 6 or 7 when Magic and Worthy they won that last that last of the championships or whatever. I don't know if you follow basketball. Well, I mean, maybe
I,
you do.
I kind of know, but
Uh,
yeah, I'm not
yeah.
a football fan. But
So,
yeah.
so when I heard that you had changed your name to Big Game James, I, I'm not gonna lie, man. I took a little issue with that because
Okay.
Big Game James is the nickname of James Worthy, the great James Worthy. And so I was
Yeah.
like, man, I don't know who gave him this name. I don't know if he appointed himself this name, but this is some pretty big shoes to fill. I need to, so I want you to tell me before we go any further, where exactly. And thanks, Kaz, for the spoilers. I love you in the chat. But I wanted you to kind of walk me through the story of this change from Red
Okay.
Venom to Big Game James.
Sure. So I kind of cooled off on playing the game for a bit, and the only place to really play at this time was Boiler, and Pyro at that time was at Boiler every night, basically. I mean, probably they were doing it like 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, like whenever I'd be on a streak or whatever, he would just say like "big game," and it's kind of like a StarCraft reference to me. I'm not sure like if he's a big basketball fan or what, but
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, it's Big Game Hunters is like a classic StarCraft map that every casual player plays on, and I was kind of like a semi-pro at StarCraft for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think it kind of stems from that. And yeah, Big Game James.
Okay, awesome,
I
awesome,
kind of
awesome.
ran with it. I kind of ran with it because at first I didn't, use it in tournaments, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then it just
Okay, okay, okay.
it
So
grew
I'm
on me.
glad it's not. I'm glad it's not a Lakers reference.
No, it's not.
Okay, but it's still you're still big game, and so
Big
you
game.
still
I mean,
there's still a legacy that you have to respect though,
I like the
because
idea of it. I try to do my best
you know
all the time. So it's just,
because James Worthy, he got that name because when it was time to win, when it was winning time,
mm.
James always showed up. And the people who are Laker fans, So anyway, guys, welcome to another edition of Mutant XPerience podcast. Like I said before, here with my special guest from SoCal, Red Venom, aka Big Game James. Used to be an Oro player, I think. Now,
Yep.
obviously, mains Ken. And so, before we get into all that good stuff, James, tell me a little bit about your background. I know that you live out in SoCal now, but have you
Hmm.
lived there all your life, or where exactly, where did you get into the FGC or whatever?
Yeah. So I was born in California, but
Mm-hmm.
moved to Seattle early on. Uh, Basically, Street Fighter 2 came out. I mean, it's a long story, many little phases. Street Fighter 2 came out like many kids. I mean, I'm one of the older guys, like, and I think Third Strike scene because it
Mm-hmm.
seems like for the old school guys, like probably mid '80s is more like the birth date, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'll be 38 this year, so um, uh, yeah, basically Street Fighter 2 came out. Every 7-Eleven back then had arcade games, and I would skip school to play this fucking game, and I loved it. It was just like a thing. And then uh, kept interested, like over time, but never got
Mm-hmm.
like competitive with it. Just very like casual interest in whatever the newer games were. And
Mm-hmm.
around the time like I got my GED and finished high school early, so around that time Marvel 1 dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And Marvel 1 came out, and like for I don't really know how people perceive it in like the competitive scenes or whatever, but for me, I was still living around Santa Barbara. I grew up like kind of in Solvang, California at that time, and like you could go to just like comic stores, pizza joints, like there would be people playing Marvel 1 like all the time. And I
So
had a
I don't want to interrupt, James. Sorry, but
yeah,
just to clarify. So you were born in SoCal. Whereabouts in
yeah,
SoCal were you? You know.
Santa Barbara.
Okay, so sort of kind of up there, and then how long, before you moved to Seattle?
I think I was 6. Yeah, I was
Okay,
6.
okay, so the stuff that you're talking about now in terms of the,
Then we
the.
moved back. Like we
Oh, okay,
moved
okay,
back later.
okay,
So like Street Fighter 2 came out when I
hmm
lived in Seattle. I
okay,
lived near like for any Pacific Northwest people, I lived like a few blocks from Northgate Mall, which was like had one of like the bigger, I think, competitive arcades like in the late '90s. Now I didn't live there that long, but I had childhood friends who just kept in contact with. So one of them, we would talk on the phone every now and then. He was telling me about how Marvel 1 was like a sick game,
hmm
and he explained to me the Magic series combos, and like I was entranced at that time. I think I was 15 or 6, yeah, 16,
hmm
and I would go to like the spots in my area at the time, living in SoCal again, and I mean any tilt at a mall would have playing it, and it was just like, I don't know, man. I just always wanted to play against people. I've always been really like, I look up to people who have like skill at something, and fighting games are just something where I wanted to kind of do it too.
hmm
Um, so then Marvel 2 came out, and I had, like I said, been out of high school, needed a job and stuff. That same friend was like, "Hey, move back to Seattle, move in with me. I got an extra room in my apartment." It's 2000, the year 2000. So shit was cheap back then, and like I moved in with a couple $100, in my pocket, could last for a few months, found a job, and
In
I would
Seattle.
go to in Seattle in
Uh-huh.
2000, and
Uh-huh.
Marvel 2 dropped, and I
hmm
would go to like Silver Coin, back then like Rotron and Ratana were like gods there. The scene was robust for Marvel 2. And I was horrible, by the way, like just a terrible player, like the worst possible type of scrub.
hmm
Um, and then like that lasted for a bit, moved home, did other things, couldn't go like to arcades regularly, so I got into like online games, started to play StarCraft really seriously,
hmm
and got into like tournaments for StarCraft. And I went to a few offline ones, but it's a very different vibe to play in the comfort of your own home and stuff, like
hmm
a tournament. But I kind of credit that with like when I finally started playing fighting games again, was basically I always kept up with the MIRC channel, like hashtag Capcom. And I kind of like, I had come to SoCal a few times and met like uh, just the old school players. Funny enough, the first time, kind of how I actually got into Third Strike is a side note to all this, that I moved back home. I'm like 19 years old, and I went to Southern Hills Golfland for a Marvel 2 tournament, and I drove down. I rented a hotel like a block away or 2 blocks away from SHGL, and kind of like played all night the night before Marvel 2, right? And I'm like, holy shit, I suck at this game. Like everyone was so godlike. I just was like too intimidated to enter the tournament the next day. So I walked from my hotel to the front of SHGL at like 10 in the morning, and or not, whenever they open, 9 in the morning actually, I think. and it was just me and Viscant sitting in the parking lot. Like, it was all foggy because it's in Orange County, basically. And we're just like sitting there, kind of like, "What's up?" Like, not really even like talking much. And
Mm-hmm.
got inside. I didn't feel like entering the tournament because it got so packed. I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna just get. I can't beat anyone." And that whole day, I ended up playing Third Strike. Arlieth was there. Guy named Mark, aka Flipmane, like all these old school guys. Were like just playing Third Strike, and it was such like a cool game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had never really gotten a chance to play it competitively with anyone, and it always was in the back of my mind, like to play it again. But then back to StarCraft, played that for a while. Um, I kept like aware of the scene through IRC, and at some point when they made the first version of GGPO, it was like a beta, and they would send you the files like over IRC, and all you could play was Alpha 2, if I remember right. And had like a gamepad from like the original Xbox or something you could hook up USB to the computer, right? And I never like could really play fighting games with a gamepad, but I would just play it for like hours, and like and then fast forward a few years, I didn't really like keep up with that, but it was like kind of a cool thing to me, like GGPO and all that. Then Street Fighter 4 came out, and I had moved to Seattle a third time in my life as an adult with like a better job, and like, just sitting in my apartment after work every day, and like uh Street Fighter 4 came out, and I'm like, man, I didn't we they had a cab before console, right? They had two places to play at, GameWorks and a bowling alley in Tacoma, which was pretty far from me. So I
Mm-hmm.
would drive down. I would just like drive like once or twice a week to just play it. Got kind of, you know, uh, kind of into the competitive spirit of it. There were a lot of old school guys there. They had, I don't know, it was just pretty awesome to play a new. Like, I was never at the ground ever came out, like, like, except when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was like, whoa, cool. Like, now I have like some execution skills from years of just being a scrub on, Dreamcast or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing okay, making friends and whatnot. And then ended up moving back to SoCal, and I just happened to have a buddy who lived in Ventura, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking for like a house to rent." We ended up renting a house like 3 blocks away from Dengen Arcade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, I'm heavy. Like, this is still like Street Fighter Vanilla, right around Super Street Fighter 4 came out,
Mm-hmm.
and there were tournaments going on and stuff. So I was like really enjoying just like finally getting a chance. I did okay at that game. It was like, first of all, compared to playing like an online game, I never played like FPSs competitively, but StarCraft, you could play like tournaments online, but you just didn't have that visceral feeling of um, playing another human being right there, right?
Yeah, the
And,
proximity
and
to
dude,
your opponent.
I would go to these tournaments, and I mean, the nerves and shakiness and like
Mm-hmm.
everything was like, it was just compelling me to like keep competing.
Awesome, awesome.
So, well, yeah. So then at Denjin, though, there was another faction from Street Fighter 4, and that was like the Third Strike heads, right? And honestly, my first impression was these guys are a bunch of fucking assholes, dude. Like, I mean, I like the game casually, like it's a fun game,
Mm-hmm.
but man, I was just like, dude, all I want to do is maybe like I need to beat some of these guys. Like, they're just like, it was a weird scene, I guess, for me at the time. I really enjoyed playing the game, and there were, uh, anyway. So because I live so close, I would practice online, PO, go play like, you know, Friday, Saturday nights or whatever, whenever they were like organizing. Um, I mean, at first, like I wasn't friends with anyone, and then I pretty quickly became friends with like Matt Chin, Ty, aka Rennick, a few other guys, and they made it more like, okay, like I kind of get the scope of this, but at the time, man, there was just a definite like outsidery vibe to anyone playing Third Strike who, was new, right? So, mhm. Yeah, this is normal-ish. Third Strike just had a long history with it, right? So it was just like, yeah, it's true. I mean, you've been around many times,
Yeah.
but
But like we've
I
never
mean,
really like talked or interacted or something like that. And just to hear your story and just to hear how like how you went to Southern Hills for a Marvel tournament around 2000, like that's around the time I first went to Southern Hills,
okay, yeah.
and then
I went there a couple times actually,
yeah.
but it was again the the discrepancy for me. I mean, this is something I keep in the back of my head to this day, like for Jazzy even, is that it's really intimidating to be a newer player and be like,
Mm,
how do I get better at these games?
yeah.
Because you'll have like an established group
Hmm.
that are just much more advanced, and
Hmm.
it's like, uh, I mean, there's no easy path to getting better,
Hmm.
but it's really hard, and it can make a lot of people give up. So I think about that like all the
Hmm.
time because I basically gave up back then. Like I knew I couldn't play Marvel 2 like at that current. I mean, I could do like combos and stuff, it's just that when playing another, the resistance of another human being was like I couldn't figure it out. So um
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, it
it's
was crazy back then, dude. They had 120 people that tournament that
yeah,
weekend,
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, back in the day, and like I said, you and I, were very similar in terms of generation. No one, maybe there was always that, like, maybe one or two players that would, like, offer any kind of modicum of advice.
Oh yeah, they're there.
Um, but for the most part, it was pretty much, the wild, wild west back in those days, right? You just kind of, you just, and it was sort of, to me, it sort of felt looking back, to me, it was kind of a way for the scene or for certain groups to kind of vet players. Like
Mhm.
looking back on it now, like I don't know, like maybe that wasn't like something that was like intentional or whatever, but I've probably told the story dozens of times on the podcast, but I'm gonna tell it again. you know, to me, whenever I think of like, if someone asked me, right, like, okay, like who is your, like, who taught you the most about Third Strike, like when you first started, right? And without fail, I will always say Paulie, Paulie.
Okay.
But he didn't
Like
really
how
teach me
so?
though. He just beat my ass like every time I went there. He would allow me to waste just all this money, right? and
Hmm.
and it was just kind of like, I guess maybe I'm just not as quick or as smart as some other players and whatever, or maybe
Well,
I
that's
didn't
how I
take,
feel all the time.
yeah, or maybe I didn't sort of take the time to kind of really learn the game because I was doing other things at the time. Like when I first started going to Southern Hills, I was in college. I was super concentrated on that, and then Street Fighter and arcades were kind of my outlet, and so I didn't even know when I started going to Southern Hills that there was even a competitive scene. You know what I mean? Like I didn't
Hmm.
even know when
Hmm.
I didn't like they played tournaments for this. Wow, that's pretty sick. Like I didn't know that
Right.
until the first time I went to Southern Hills. So, when I went there and I played, it was just kind of like I didn't think the way like cuz looking back on it, right? It's like, damn, Paul spent a lot of time just beating my ass, and I don't know, like hopefully he got something out of it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like looking back
Yeah.
on it, right? I'm thinking, man, cuz woo, like like literally like for 3 hours straight, I would just lose game after game after game after game after game. And just looking back on it, it's like, man, I mean, the fact that he just stood there And remember, this stand-up cabs, right? Arcade cabs.
Mm-hmm.
You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah.
remember the third strike machine
Ran
was
them all
right
day.
was right across from the food. You remember that? It was in that
At
little
Southern Hills,
yeah,
yeah,
at Southern
exactly.
Hills. And dude, they just it was you know, and it was like yeah, man, and but like I didn't really care about what Paulie was thinking or feeling. You know what I mean? I was just there
Mm.
to just play, and
Well,
you
because it
know,
was fun,
yeah.
and that's the big thing is like
Uh-huh.
it's just so fun, like especially initially. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's always fun, but
Uh-huh.
like it goes up and down. But like
Yeah.
that initial thing is like, wow, this shit is just amazing.
And so like he didn't like probably for like a good year and a half. He probably didn't say a single word to me.
Yeah, I've
And I
been
was
there. Yeah.
and I was going pretty regularly, like at least like one like at least every every other week, but usually once every week I would go there.
Mm.
Um, you know, which is actually now that I think about it, that's not actually a lot if you're like a competitive player, right? But anyway,
True, true. But yeah, you go on a
yeah,
Friday or Saturday night. I mean, it's gonna be heavy
yeah.
competition.
And I think what changed is I think I started entering tournaments,
Mm.
and I started entering tournaments, at Camelot. I think it
Okay.
was. I think that was kind of like my, now that I think about it, dude. Like, can you tell me when your first tournament? No. I know when my first tournament was.
I can tell you,
I'm
yeah.
so stupid. Okay, my first tournament experience was at Family. It was at Family. It was like
Mm.
2002 or 2003. I think something like that. And I went, and I remember my first tournament because I beat Ed Ma in my first tournament match.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but he was using Dudley. So
Was
but
he just like he just thought it would be like a walkover
I
or
don't know.
like
He was using Dudley,
okay.
and later on I learned that he was maining Ken. But anyway,
Right.
but you know, but I think when I started entering tournaments, at Camelot, right? I think that's when it changed, and that's when sorry, I'm just that's when kind of Paulie started to like just say like little things, right? Like, oh, you can block that, or oh, you should press this button, or how about like very little like this would be like like these would be little tidbits like every
Yeah.
few weeks, you know what I'm saying? um and so it's funny because it's like we're talking about how difficult it is to get new players into the scene, and I think a lot of that is time, right, James? Because like we were all in the same boat at that point, right?
Well, I
Because the
mean,
game,
back then it was so different without
yeah,
like YouTube and whatnot. I mean,
yeah,
uh,
that
this
too.
is this is a funny thing about how I found like the competitive stuff though is like I discovered Shoryuken, right?
Hmm.
And I started like the front page back then was just like bold links to various like articles. It wasn't like any
Hmm.
modern like look to it. It
Hmm.
was some links to info. Like there were links to James Chen at the time was really big on videos, and I
Hmm.
remember looking at them and as a really scrubby player, I was like, oh wow, you could do these. Like wow, that must be what like the best players do. Just impractical, stupid combos and stuff. But one of their links was like we had the B4 tournament,
Hmm.
and I ordered the VHS tapes. I still have them, and I just found out that that was a whole thing. But back then, there was no like the information level was very low.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you could find out like combos, but I mean, reading someone's FAQ where they like just put something on paper, you're like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I
Dude,
mean, there's timing involved and a lot of stuff. So,
Dude, I remember the first article I ever read on SRK. This is when I started going to tournaments. And I started going, well, maybe I should play in tournaments. This seems
okay.
really interesting. And so obviously, like you, right? I went to SRK because people said, oh, go to SRK. That's where the forums are
Mhm.
and whatever. And shout outs to the UCI Zot Zone, my old clan, Team Control. We had our little UCI thread over there on SRK. But anyway, so I think the first article I ever read on SRK was this article on Crouch Tech. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a really old article about Crouch Tech and Third Strike. You know,
Crouch
like
Tech and Third Strike. Wow.
like
Okay.
like like
Wow.
oh,
I totally
like
know this.
like how you like no like yeah exactly.
No, I
This
know
is
it
how
exists now, but back then,
no this was
would have had no
long
idea.
time ago, it was and it was just kind of explaining step by step, really like just kind of just real sort of like you could tell it was so new, you know what I mean? Like it just but anyway, like I think that's like the first article I read. It was like a front page article. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't like
yeah, yeah.
someone
They
that
would have
posted,
like their tech articles were actually for the time like in my memory they're pretty well done.
Hmm.
Like again, James Chen would do a lot of them, and like
Yeah.
he was breaking it down. But I think the lexicon people were used to, I don't know, the way people would process stuff back then,
Hmm.
it was almost hard to be at that level of technicality to like
Hmm.
absorb it quickly, right? Like
Hmm.
if I read something about crouch tech, I probably wouldn't have really understood the application
No,
for
I didn't.
me
I didn't.
personally, but yeah.
I didn't.
So
So yeah,
well,
it's
the
crazy.
dark ages.
Yeah. So you know, one thing that I was always curious about, man, like, and this is something that I'm sure you've had conversations about, but like, the difference between the way the Japanese learn the game, between the
Hmm.
way we learn the game, and then I'm sure you've had that discussion numerous times, not just
Yeah,
about Third Strike, but like any other game. You know what I mean?
sure. It applies to myself as well.
Yeah. Like,
Definitely.
is it just a matter of access, like and
No,
density, or is
no,
there
no,
something
no.
philosophically like is was there something that was like that we could have changed about the way we learn the game in America? Like
Dude,
was
honest,
or was it something that we just wasn't under our control? Like what do you think about that?
can I dive right in? Because
Yeah,
it's
man,
just
dude, go ahead, man.
the philosophical difference is ego, and that's that Americans love if something works like
Hmm.
20% of the time, even though the reason it's working is technical error, right? Like user error, your opponent, whatever. Or even you mistiming something and it just works out because Third Strike is like that type of game. The Japanese really see things, I believe. I'm not Japanese, obviously, but I think they just look at stuff on paper and like understand the math, the ideas behind it.
Hmm.
So the concepts are very clear cut to like in a formula way, like a math formula.
Hmm.
And they play like off of that as like a basis. Whereas American players, again, like if there's a element of, well, this works a lot because people make a mistake here, that
Hmm.
will be like a whole part of our meta is
Hmm.
like forcing mistakes and
Hmm.
errors. And I mean, I think that's like one of the biggest back in the day. Yeah,
Would
the the amount of access was different
hmm.
for sure because they had some very nice information from early on. Um, and I mean, it might stem to some other things too, like just the social structure of the game here is very like, and it probably is there too, but a top player isn't really going to share stuff with you all the time. I mean, you might get a tidbit, but
Hmm.
you're just not going to get someone who's going to just spell everything out um,
Hmm.
for you like easy. Like they're not going to fucking go home and compile like
Hmm.
pages of information so that you get closer to beating them.
Hmm.
And I don't know, in Japan, like they just seem to. There's a little more personal pride, like in the sense that they want to play their best, and like if sloppiness is in the game, like they want to like eliminate it. Whereas over here, like we like revel in it. I
Hmm.
guess that's how I see it. So.
Hmm. So you started, by saying ego, right? Like, what do you
Mhm.
mean by like ego? Like, you mean like the Jap? So you're saying like the Japanese, like
The
at
Japanese
least
see
when
it
they
as
approach learning the game, right?
uh yeah,
Like how like because I mean, we're still playing Street Fighter, right? It's still competition.
yes,
And I think I don't think it's possible to ever never have an ego, right?
right. No, no, no,
Um,
and I definitely there are examples and
yeah.
stories of
But when you
and
talk
top
about
players having
ego,
the same stuff.
yeah. But when you talk about ego, are you like suggesting that like back in the early days, the Japanese were more willing to kind of collaborate and share ideas all in an effort to collectively get better, or what do you or what exactly is kind of the difference between there? Because you're talking about how here in America, right, no one wants to share shit, no one wants to help each other, it's all
Yeah.
about beating
Well,
up your
because a win
opponent,
is a
so forth, so
win.
on. And
Like,
a win
who
is a win,
cares?
right?
Like, a win is a win, so you wanna focus on that over like
Mm-hmm.
truly improving.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a weird concept for me too, because it kind of came in 5 stars kind of, I believe, sort of into this sort of thinking, and it's that like if you're winning through like easy wins in this game, at least to me, don't count as much as just like having a really clean nice win. Because the higher you go, like the better players you play, you really can't get away with it,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like a level at this game, or many levels probably, but where I mean you can win a lot with just some real grimy stuff. I could take advantage of like players who don't know how to stop certain things all day, but I'm never improving.
Mm-hmm.
And in the technical level in Japan for fighting, I don't think they get away with it as much. Like they just have to improve. And I don't know if there's like up. I really don't know enough about like, their social
Mm-hmm.
aspect to say, oh, well, people will just come up and tell you something. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably not how it works,
Mm-hmm.
but they just seem into like, I don't know, self improvement and just playing better all the time rather than like settling on just more wins this week.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or maybe it could just be as simple as, hey, when you play, pay attention to your failures as much as you pay attention to your successes, right? Like you
right. Well,
make a
there,
lot of these
yeah.
mistakes during the gameplay, pay attention to those too. In an effort to get better, I guess.
I've always seen a huge cognitive bias thing going on in fighting games
Mm-hmm.
where players who have uh, Third Strike has a really big one to me, and that's that there are some guys who play with. I mean, they're good players, very technical, um, but they really focus on, I don't know, sort of a very like pushy style, and it just never works once they approach like the higher level players. But they're really happy with just executing that sort of like, I mean, we just there's no other word for it, but just we call it grimy play, or jungle. And those guys,
Jungle Strike.
jungle strike, man. I mean, it has a place, but in the long run, like it doesn't really get you anywhere, you know, or that's how I see it right now.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Like not to kind of like play devil's advocate, but
Mhm.
it's interesting that I think to be perfectly honest, I think it's a balance of both. Kind of I sort of take kind of the Taoist approach. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always a yin and yang,
That is
and
true.
then there's always like for example, right? A win is a win is not the kind of philosophy you want to go by, but at the very same time, it's still important to win. Sort of
Oh yeah.
kind of
Hmm.
give and take. And
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking about is it's interesting because it's like what's the biggest third strike tournament of the year? And
Right
don't
now,
say Jazzy Finale just to just to placate my ego, right? But
nowadays it is for
no,
sure.
yeah,
But
okay,
let's if we
okay,
go if we go a little bit back, who
yeah,
knows? It could be anywhere.
maybe,
Coop.
but
It's Coop.
it's
But
Coop, right?
yeah.
And like you've been to Japan, James?
No, I've never
Okay,
been.
you haven't been yet. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, well, not great. You need to go, but maybe not this year. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry. Maybe
Maybe.
I need to cut that. Maybe I need to cut that. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. Scientifically, from what I'm not going to
Thinking
mention
about
it.
it.
I'm not going to mention it. You know what we're talking about, chat. But anyway, um, because like we think about the biggest tournament, right? In Third Strike,
Hmm.
um, and it's Coop. And I don't know how hot of a take this is. I think I've mentioned it before in the stream. But Coop's pretty fucking random, dog. Like it's
Yeah,
hella
definitely.
random, dude. Like you like aside from like like you obviously mostly all the time the cream rises to the crop, right? Like like or the cream of the crop
Yeah.
rises, or the cream rises to the top or whatever. But like it can be pretty fucking random. One game, and it's
Well,
like just
as
that.
I understand, even their sequels are not very. They don't even do it like American style, where like you're trying to really separate like the strongest teams a little
Mhm,
bit, I
mhm.
guess. But like their whole format really
Yeah.
revels in, right? Like they love that.
So I hear what you're saying, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always a good, like yes, you won, but it's important. It's also important, when you to focus on how you win, right?
Mm.
But then,
Okay.
sort of ironically enough, or maybe there isn't a contradiction to this, but then ironically enough, the biggest Third Strike tournament is Coup, where it's literally just one game. It's one game. Like the best player like never like doesn't always win Coup, right?
Right. Hmm.
So I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is that like kind of a weird sort of dichotomy there, or is there a way we can explain that?
Well, I think Third Strike itself is a pretty poorly balanced game, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't ever hide it. Like I don't try to tell. Going back to when I got into Third Strike,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the way people who are very into Third Strike talk about it. Um, Someone online coined this, who's not like heavy in Third Strike, but they would say like the Third Strike mystics, like people who just believe in like like it almost has a spiritual
Third
aspect to
Strike
it.
mistakes.
Like people who like okay, let's just like go to a technical level of Third Strike,
uh-huh.
of going way back.
Uh-huh.
uh you've been playing this game competitively longer than me, and it's like, how many times have you heard arguments about what's confirmable,
Yeah.
or someone did something and said I saw it,
Uh-huh.
like like stuff that's not real, but like I just saw it, dude, saw it, dog. Like Third Strike has a weird aspect to it, I believe, with parry and just kind of the fluidness of the animation, the way
Uh,
like hit stop and the actually confirmable stuff works.
those are the
I
druids,
mean,
dude, in the back of
it's
Gil
just,
stage, dude.
yeah,
Those are the
they're
Third
doing
Strike
chants and stuff.
mystics, dude. The
Mhm.
Illuminati.
And I mean, Third Strike just like at its core has a good basis for all this type of like nonsense, right? Um, but the game's really horribly balanced in a way. So when you play like long sets, I mean, nowadays, like I look at it differently. It's like if I'm gonna play a character like Remy and I'm playing against Ken, if I'm winning like one for every two that I lose, that's like a even, set.
Uh-huh.
It's like you have to kind of like have that in your mind, or you're going to get really upset with the game. And those are the people who run straight to, whatever, like a top
Mm.
five character, I guess, or yeah. So, I don't know, man. Japan just likes that format, and I think they kind of they really respect that aspect of the game. That's just your personal development, regardless of the character you play and whatnot. It matters, man. I mean, it feels good to improve at this game. Just
Mm-hmm.
it has a lot in it that's it doesn't matter if you want to main 12 or whatever. Like you can push 12 a pretty long way. Um and yeah, I think that they kind of like see that playing this game and like our American format is, I think, boring for the game personally. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really work well um overall.
Yeah.
It's a struggle for anyone playing a bottom half character, and I mean that's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the game's beautiful in its own way,
But
so like
but do you
continuing
think?
to improve is
Yeah.
valid and great.
But do you think maybe like in a weird way? I know this is gonna sound like Third Strike mysticism, but
Hmm.
do you think maybe the poor balance is actually an attempt to kind of instill this mindset or this philosophy, like in terms of not having too big of an ego, like Do you think maybe that's the reason why the game is not balanced that way? You know, because it sort of teaches us, if it tries to teach us those lessons, or it sort of, you know, kind of like I was saying how, like, you know, scenes used to vet players, right? Like it sort of,
Yeah.
the imbalance of the game sort of, and the way you react to it. It's not balance. Maybe it's the balance of the game isn't as important as the way that the individual player reacts to the balance. Like,
That's
for
totally
example,
what
for
it
me,
is too.
right? Yeah, for me historically, I've never cared about balance.
Mhm.
And then some people will argue, yeah, because you've never cared about winning. You know, they'll tell me something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've never really cared about balance. Like, this was never like, oh shit, like the I like Mike Z. I mean, shout outs to Mike Z, right? But like the time and the thought process, and like, I could never imagine myself sitting down and just kind of systematically going through the game and going, okay, what can I do to balance this game? Because it didn't matter to me. Like,
Mm.
it's just something I didn't care about. You know, is that something that you care? Because I know you play a lot of other games. You play HF, you play ST, you know, but, you know, is that something that you always cared about, or, and why?
I
Like, you know.
I do. I mean, on the topic, I switched to Ken for a reason, and
Mm-hmm.
it basically is that um, with Oro, when I would play against like 5 star and Pyro, I never felt like, without being just a total god, like like investing your life in the game, like could I ever beat these people? And
With Oro.
with Oro, and
Uh-huh.
I mean, I still don't really beat 5 star, but it's like with Ken, I knew I could be more in control of like of of my progression in a
Uh-huh.
tournament, in whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the balance doesn't really, it doesn't bother me. I actually really like dabble in like a lot of characters, which I don't normally do in fighting games. I usually
Uh-huh.
stick pretty close. The game is just great. I mean, it really, if you don't take it seriously that way, it's an amazing game.
Uh-huh.
If you only want results, then yeah, there's a kind of a way to achieve that, I guess.
Uh-huh.
You know, but it's never bothered me in Third Strike too much,
Uh-huh.
except like I said, like I kind of, Third Strike in SoCal has gone through some phases, and after Denjin and FFA closed, we would still play pretty regularly, like the boiler type crew,
Uh-huh.
and we'd play at Japan Arcade. Then that closed, and then we would go to Super Arcade. But a
Wait,
lot of the guys,
Japan Arcade closed?
a long time ago, yeah,
Like the one in downtown LA?
yeah, the one
Oh,
at the
okay.
mall, yeah.
Damn.
Um,
Well, the cabs were always
so
shitty anyway.
it was okay. I mean, it had like a Japanese cap head to head. It was
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Well, I
But we
mean, to
would
be
go,
honest,
and
definitely, you know, back in the day, Japan Arcade was always very,
it
it
was
was very
bad.
low on the
It was bad.
arcade totem.
Yeah, it wasn't
Uh,
a great spot, and it
yeah.
closed that. So,
Yeah.
um, but as the game kind of went through its phases, a lot of guys wouldn't come to the tournaments, like a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
higher level players at
Mm-hmm.
Super Arcade. And I used to play Oro. Just honestly, man, I never really practiced at Third Strike a lot. It's funny that like the other games, some of them I've put a lot of work into, like execution wise. And this game, like I just kind of played a little online, and I got to where like I could beat a lot of players, um, and it was like I didn't want to put more into the game. I didn't like it that way at the time. I was just happy like that I could kind of shut up, shut up the Third Strike players because they're so aggressively annoying back then. And then as time went on, yeah, like I said, like Super Arcade was the only spot for tournaments or that I would really see, and Pyro wouldn't come out to those. 5 star only came to like one or two. I ended up just always getting like first, second, or third at like every
Uh-huh.
single Super Arcade tournament for like 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And then Super Arcade closed at that location.
Uh-huh.
And after that, I actually didn't play this game for like quite a while. I mean, here and there, like whenever I got the chance, maybe like almost 2 years. Probably would play it only every like 3 or 4 months, and didn't practice. I mean, again, I've never practiced a lot at the game, so then time kept going on, and I got less involved in other games. Like
Mm-hmm.
Street Fighter Five came out during that time, and I thought maybe that'll for me to like really get into, and it was horrible, and I
Mm-hmm.
hate it. So I didn't play that one, and I kind of missed tournaments in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and I started going to uh, Boiler a lot. I mean, I went through a breakup and was just like, oh, what am I gonna do like with my nights? So I would
Okay.
drive over to
Okay.
Van Nuys or whatever and go to Boiler,
Yeah.
have some drinks and just play some games,
Yeah.
and I slowly got like more into it.
Yeah.
And then I just kept like that kept me in it enough, like the regularity of it,
Uh-huh.
that that when well, I also was going to Don's, right? But Don's for me was just a general like I could play whatever there.
Mm-hmm.
ST, old games, Alpha 2, play Street Fighter 4 or 5, anything, pretty much. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's not guys who play like anime stuff there, but
Mm-hmm.
play whatever I want and just have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a kickback Friday night, and Mr. 12 would be there. Shout out to Van, and I would just play kind of casually. Like again, between Boiler and that, just kept Third Strike like in my repertoire. Like just my skills were always like maintaining. Uh, and then like I don't know, I started getting like more busy with work, and then suddenly B-Tran showed up
Mm-hmm.
festivals, and he just suddenly had like this skill set. Being that he's like a huge, like his execution is insane. He's just like very smart. Tenren would start coming more, and I didn't even know it was Tenren. I would just play him and get mad because he's so good, and during that time, I just like wanted to switch to Ken. Like I
Mm-hmm.
started playing Ken almost all the time, and Jazzy wasn't around yet, but the big thing, TFC. You had TFC. The first one happened, and people were like, "This was amazing." I didn't go. And then we had that second TFC, and I got like geared up for it and was practicing every week. Super busy all the time, but I was just like, man, I'm gonna, do this, and it was awesome. I mean, that was one of the best trips, certainly one of the best tournaments and fighting game experiences of my life. And ever since then, yeah, I've just like been really serious with the Ken, and just serious like in a way like I wasn't before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I bought cabs, and I started like actually practicing the game, like learned how to car a Shoryuken after fucking 7, 8 years, stuff like that,
Dude,
like just
we're
all these
like,
little things.
why have we never like hung out before? We're like,
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
no, I don't want to say that, but we're just like, there's very parallels. There's a lot of parallels. You know what I mean? Like I bought cabs. I went down the same rabbit hole. Yeah. Well,
yeah. I
anyway,
mean,
yeah.
because I mean, I always kept in touch though. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have friends through the game, right, and
Mm-hmm.
they keep me into it,
Yeah.
and even though I think some people have like the wrong idea how robust the Los Angeles or SoCal scene is for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do have the opportunity to play like every week,
Yeah.
twice a week, 3 times a week if I really want to,
Yeah.
and it just kept me interested, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's been great though. So,
Yeah, man. So I think now's probably a good time to take a break.
sure.
But when we come back, let's talk about, let's not talk about the SoCal scene in the past. Let's talk about now. Let's talk about
Okay.
today. Let's see, and let's talk a little bit about how you see Third Strike in SoCal, kind of how it is now, and where it's going or where you'd like it to go. So before we go on our first break, I wanted to go ahead and just make a quick announcement. For those of you who caught Arturo's stream, NYC Furby, later on in that stream, Daisuke came on to promote a new show that's going to be airing from my channel every other Sunday, and it's called 3S Night School with Daisuke. And so, basically, this is sort of, Daisuke is, first and foremost, for those of you who don't know, Daisuke is a Japanese Third Strike player who about a year ago moved to New York City. And, he's been, really interested lately in, educating, players in America, particularly younger players, and, kind of, sort of, become more interested in kind of educating the scene. And, and obviously, James, we talked about, how it was for us back in the day and, learning the game and so forth and so on. And so, me and Daisuke got together and we came up with this concept called 3S Night School. And so it's pretty simple. James, I'm sure you've seen Frankie BFG's film breakdowns of famous players.
Cool. Very good.
And so basically, 3S Night School, on 3S Night School, we invite new players to come on the stream and watch footage of their matches with top Third Strike veterans. And so every show is going to feature, Daisuke and a guest teacher and two students, two new players. And, on each segment, a student will be paired with a teacher, and they're just going to kind of watch some of their footage and just kind of talk a little bit about, their gameplay and all that good stuff. Yeah, it could be a huge blow up. This is this is probably one of the more ambitious things I've tried to do, streaming wise. But, hopefully we can make it work. But the first episode is actually this Sunday, February 22nd, 23rd, February 23rd. And I just wanted to let everyone know that obviously, aside from Daisuke, we're going to have someone that you're very familiar with on the show as our guest teacher, James. We're going to have none other than Ty, aka Rennick, as our guest teacher on Sunday's show. And as far as the show goes, we're going to, like I said before, we're going to invite a couple of new Third Strike players to come on the show and watch some of their footage. Now, one of the things that's really important that I wanted to kind of, emphasize about 3S Night School is that everyone who plays Third Strike has an opportunity to appear on the show, because in a couple days we're going to release basically a submission form where players can kind of, submit their information, link footage of their matches, and for those who want to be considered to be on the show. And if you're selected to be on the show, courtesy of the Jazzy Circuit, we will sponsor you for the very next Jazzy Circuit in terms of your venue and entry fee. So, like for example, if player John Doe applies to be on the show and we pick him and he comes on the show, the very next Jazzy tournament he wants to go to, Jazzy Circuit has him in terms of venue and entry fee. Nice. So, but even without that, this is, like I said, like we talked about, James, this would be unheard of in 2001. You know what I mean? This concept was like, the OGs their heads would spin around and explode, if they heard about this idea, sharing tech with the F. But yeah, so anyway, like I said before, the first episode is going to be this Sunday, and and we're going to see how it goes. And so shout outs to Daisuke. Please follow Daisuke on Twitter. I apologize, but I don't exactly know what his Twitter is right now. But I will get that in the chat during the break. But yeah, hopefully you guys come around on Sunday to watch the show. And like I said, James, it's either going to be a rousing success or it's going to be a blow up. I don't see any midway, but we'll see.
But shout out to Daisuke. He's a really cool guy, man. I like that.
Yeah, Daisuke and I have kind of, and I'm going to get your thoughts on Jazzy in the next segment, James. But, to me, the importance of Jazzy, and, I kind of alluded to this earlier, like, it's just, we got to have tournaments, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like
Sure.
like I wish I could like come out here and I say that I have this like super Machiavellian design plan for Jazzy. It wasn't even that complicated, man. It's just we needed tournaments and we needed them consistently and regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was it. That was it. It wasn't rocket science, you know. That's all. That's all I thought. What the scene needed. But now that we got players coming out, you can convince somebody to go to church the first time, right, James? But
Mm-hmm.
but how do you get them coming back? You know what I
Well,
mean?
they gotta have a good experience.
Yeah, right. And part of keeping players motivated is helping players, or at least giving players some way or mechanism of getting better. Because if you're not getting better, then you know
Right.
so anyway, we're gonna talk obviously more about that in the next segment, but we're gonna go ahead and take a quick, about 5 minute break, and then we'll come back with more Mutant Experience podcast with my special guest Random James, or Random James, no, Big Game James. Sorry, Random James is an East Coast player. Sorry, getting old.
All good.
So, but you're not Random James. I'm sorry, Freudian slip.
But yeah.
But sometimes random's good, right? Okay, I'm digging myself a hole. Anyway, we're gonna go on break. We'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. Hey guys, Mutant XP back on the stream. Once again, this is the Mutant XPerience podcast. Tonight, I got my special guest, Big Game James, not random, Big Game James, aka Red Venom, aka Broom from GGPO Fightcade. What's going on with that?
Broom. From StarCraft. I stole it from like a Korean semi-pro. And then I shortened it to Broom at some point. And I'm pretty sure I used it on GGPO. And then years went by, and then suddenly there's a Third Strike Broom just appeared, and I don't know.
You know what? You know what Fightcade sort of reminds me of? Like The Watchmen. You know, like, you know how all the cops have masks and shit? Like, you know, like, that's like, that's what
anonymous.
Everyone's anonymous on Fightcade, you know what I'm saying? Like, the handles don't mean anything anymore, you know? They're all just like, you know, just anonymous. They all have these Watchmen masks. The Rorschach mask, dude.
To promote Tenren.
10Red is maybe the ruler of all these.
He's the fucking, what is it? Like God guy.
He's Ozymandias. He's Ozymandias. Oh man. Okay.
That's
anyway, bless Fightcade. Anyway, so what were we gonna talk about today? What were we gonna talk about this? Oh yeah, we're gonna talk. Sorry guys, we're gonna talk about the SoCal Third Strike scene now in the present day. Yeah. So give it to me, James. I know you're a straight shooter. You know, take it away. I mean, what do you kind of see? You know, when it comes to the Third Strike scene right now, like what in terms of what it needs and stuff. You know, I had this like huge plan to kind of like come in with like footage of the first Wednesday night fights tournament, and then I totally forgot to do that. But anyway,
I mean,
so yeah, just go ahead, man.
We have a problem in SoCal, and that's a problem of accessibility. There's not really many places to, you know, you pretty much have invite-only spots and dons. And we've been there for a while, pretty much since, even at the old, like, Super Arcade originally was like an okay play, like the old one in Walnut. And there'd be random guys, some good players, Hungy and Kai would be there. But after, you know, he shut down and took, it's been kind of the dark ages for new players. If you're a reasonably adept player, you could jump in and make friends and probably, like, you know, be able to play somewhere. But for newer players, you don't really have much. You can go to Don's, and I recommend you do. But you know, you'll probably not get a ton of games against like the better players. I mean, and that's just where we're at with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wish there was a public spot that was open all the time for people to play.
I see.
You know?
Well, you had Super Arcade.
Yeah, but also Super Arcade was in a pretty
far. It was pretty out there.
Spot. It was pretty, dude, out there in like the Upper Azusa Peninsula.
Yeah, it was.
Shit was pretty far.
But then, you know, to be fair, family was, you know, but then, you know, obviously family had a core.
No, you're right, and that is the problem that a lot of people don't understand with LA to begin with, is that there's like regions, right?
Oh yeah.
Imagine a square.
Dude, back in the day, right? The criticism was always, oh, West Coast don't travel. Dog, we travel to our own tournaments.
Dude, we have a huge
you know what I'm
geographical region. It's like a square, dude. Like, imagine that you're at one side, like A. You know, you're at A, and there's a person at the opposite end. You don't have a direct route. Freeways don't go directly to where you're going. You have to make like a fucking full, you know, all the way to B and then go up A type of route. You know, I know it's like a cliche for LA people to talk about fucking freeways, but it's really true.
Yeah, everyone in LA is an urban planner, dude. Everyone's
exactly. So, and then we have Orange County. sack just like hanging below it.
Uh-huh.
And you have that's another large geographical region. So
Uh-huh.
uh, to get everyone in one place is kind of difficult. And I don't know, there's not a lot of events that bring everyone out.
Mm-hmm.
Even now with Jazzy, we're kind of I would say like it's cool that like a lot of like I mean I've seen dude Combo Fiend was at one of these. It's cool that people show up,
Uh-huh.
but we have a little bit of an issue with like repeats and the newer
Mm-hmm.
players. So
And so have you thought of like, possible solutions or, or remedies or, what we can do to kind of circumvent those issues?
man, I mean for right now, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a great solution.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was just somewhere people could play Third Strike. Like the thing is, like people know Wednesday Night Fights, right? It's been
Mm-hmm.
around a long time. It's moved. It's actually migrated quite a ways, dude. It used to be at a dude's garage um in Westminster, and I actually went to those when I was really heavy on Street Fighter 4,
Mm-hmm.
and then it went from there to like a casino over by LAX
Mm-hmm.
to now it's all the way in Santa Ana, which is like almost like South Orange County. So it's
Mm-hmm.
far. It's really far. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking 40 to 80 miles depending on like where you are in LA, from like
Mm-hmm.
all the way to the top of like where FFA is or was, you know, down. And it
Mm-hmm.
it's just like it's not even the best play. I mean, it's a fine venue and they do a lot to accommodate the players. The events there have been fine, but it's far. It's
Mm-hmm.
really far. And they start at 10 p.m., so
Mm-hmm.
if you can't be up until 2 a.m. playing games and drive, that's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We just need somewhere that's like a good spot people will play. I
Mm-hmm.
live near a boba place that KOF players play. Like
Mm-hmm.
I live in a very Chinese area, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's a boba chain, and they have a couple KOF cabs, and I swear that place is packed until they close every night of the week
Mm-hmm.
with KOF 98, 2002, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
variant players. And like I just see something like that being possible. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
someone needs to
I
tack this
was
onto an existing business and
well.
make it work.
Well, I mean, and please don't take this the wrong way, James, and please don't feel pressured into doing this, especially, since we're live and shit. But like
Sure,
I was about to say, maybe the solution is behind you. You know what I'm saying? Because
maybe.
it was, so when iFix Machine closed a few years ago, um, there was an opportunity to purchase one of the cabs, and I sort of jumped on that, and I don't want to, and I mean, I guess I can't avoid it, but like, obviously people might think, oh, Mutant's just feeling himself or whatever, he's just trying to like pat himself on the back, but like, you
Ah,
know,
you're good.
like I bought that cab so that we could have those cabs at next level.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that happens sometimes is when people buy cabs to like a private seller or whatever, right? Dude, that
Yeah.
cab is gone. You know what I'm saying? Like that cab
Oh, dude,
is like
arcade collectors are the
that
worst.
cab
Like
is like nowhere to be found. You will never
that
see that
shit
cab
never gets
again.
turned on, dude. Only for you.
Yeah. So I mean, there was an opportunity. I mean, we were gonna have one of the versus cabs there for sure, but like, the difference between one versus cab and two, that's
It's pretty
huge.
big.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Well, there's a dude near me who sells cats. He's
yeah.
like a older guy who imports a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and in
It's
Cali,
it's
it's
easy
a
to
lot
come
cheaper,
upon.
right? It's a lot cheaper on the West Coast.
Well, I don't know how much
You
you
know,
pay for a versus.
well, it's a lot cheaper because of the shipping. Because Japan is a shorter
Oh yeah,
distance
to get him in
to the
here.
West
Yep.
Coast.
Hmm.
You know, interestingly enough, now we're starting to experience a completely different problem. It's not the cabs that are too expensive. Now it's the boards. You know what I mean?
Dude, the boards are out of control. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to just get one or two or whatever and
Yeah.
and hold on to it.
Dude, and there's a lot of people that we were, you know, and I was one of them, and everyone knows in the chat, okay? I was warning everyone, dude, you got to get those CPS3 boards, man. You got to get them. But, you know,
You do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um
For sure.
yeah. Maybe oh, and now I'm gonna start hearing like conspiracy theories that I started Jazzy just to drive up the price of the CPS boards.
They were already going up a
Yeah,
lot.
they were already going up. They were already going up. But yeah.
Luckily, Darksoft kind of makes it. I always tell people this. I actually had like, hey man, I'm thinking about trying to open a small arcade in NorCal, right?
Mhm,
And he's like, he just had like ambitions for like a side venture on an existing business,
mhm,
and I told him, look at OfferUp, look at like local Craigslist, maybe you probably never find anything on there. Facebook Marketplace, just
mhm,
look. You'll find someone who has like a random board, a CPS3 any game, right?
mhm, mhm.
And you can just buy it for whatever price they say. Maybe you get lucky, 500, $600, and then you just pay whatever to get it dark softed. Bam, you got third strike. So that's the way to do it nowadays. Otherwise, if you're paying eBay prices, it's just short of $1,000.
Sure,
So
yeah, dude. Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Have you seen a? I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but have you ever seen this Johnny Depp movie called The Ninth Gate?
I definitely saw it, and I can't remember
So,
much about
so in this movie, The Ninth Gate, Johnny Depp plays this character. I forgot his name, something Corso or whatever. And yeah, Keiichi is OD, and he's like a
it. He's like a detective
he's
or
like a
something? Like,
bookseller. Like he's like he
oh,
tracks down rare books and then sells them, and then he gets a cut of it. And like he's like he's like the grimiest bookseller, dude. Like he'll go in, like the first scene of the movie, he's like quote unquote he's appraising the price of this old elderly man's library, and the elderly man, he had like a sickness, right? And he can't
yeah.
talk, and he can't, all he can do is just kind of like wiggle a little bit, and like and so like his son-in-law or something, he's like, okay, so how much, how much, would do these books cost? And then like obviously like Johnny Depp's character is gonna lowball them. And then there's a scene, right, where like he says the price, how much he's gonna sell him, and then the guy, like, close up in his hand, he's like scrunching the blanket. Just like you could tell like he wants to say something but he can't. Yeah, but anyway, I was just thinking, like, dude, we're gonna have like a ninth gate for CPS3 boards, where it's just gonna be a job, like someone tracking down these boards.
Oh, dude, it pretty much is,
Yeah,
honestly. I don't know if shmup boards are even crazier, which is
yeah.
like a different thing.
But yeah, man. So I think, like you were saying, I guess, from your perspective, it's just a lack of venues, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
or
the
not,
access and
or
and and
open venues.
yeah, open venues and
Mm-hmm.
reason for people to come back. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
fighting games are hard, and what I've noticed is a lot of guys get kind of like destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they come by a few times, but like I'm not saying they give up at the game because they might still play it online or however they like, but they
Mm-hmm.
kind of go like, "Wow, tournaments are not like I'm just not
Mm-hmm.
close yet," and it's kind of unfortunate because I really like tournaments personally. I wish I got into them sort of earlier in life.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just a good exercise, like mentally and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's sort of what I see. Like, if we just talk about Don's, like, dude, Don's Arcade has a lot of people come back, and they're not the best players, and they just like to, you know, they come by and play. Hopefully, there's other guys for them to some good games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they're more novice. Yeah, I mean, that's it. But also distance, like
Mm-hmm.
SoCal, again, like distance is hard too. I
Mm-hmm.
don't blame anyone for not wanting to drive over an hour to get. somewhere and
Mhm.
play for a little bit with sort of like not the most. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of like props or like recognition for anything if you're a new player. We've all been at this too long.
Mhm.
Everyone who's new is just kind of ignored,
Yeah.
sadly.
Oh, definitely. So, I want you to tell me a little bit about your experiences with Wednesday night fights so far this season, because one of the things that your, I guess we'll call them SoCal community leaders, had expressed to me, it was a lack of venues or a lack of
Yeah.
opportunities for SoCal players to earn points in Jazzy. And so, we took that, issue very seriously, and we were able
Right.
to, we were able to,
Right. We had
persuade.
the second event
Yes.
or whatever every
Yeah.
week or
Um,
two, whatever month, I
yeah.
guess.
And so how do you see that kind of, what are some of the things that you like about it? What are some of the things that you think, just kind of maybe, just like logistics wise, maybe we could kind of, you know, sort of address or whatever.
Okay, well, I'm not one of the guys who I don't have a problem playing on super gun
Uh
with
huh.
pads and sticks in my lap and stuff. But it seems to be like third strike players always come up with reasons to just be annoyed at like variant outside of playing on like real cab. But
Mm.
even on real cabs, you have control issues
Hmm.
and oh, I didn't like the buttons or sticks. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of like problematic no matter what.
Hmm.
And um, for me, going to Wednesday night fights is totally. Um, there's really no problem except for like it's just out of the way.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, yeah, it's been totally acceptable. I
Hmm.
mean, there's been a lot of tech issues down there. Let's
Hmm.
put it that way. Like if we play at Don's, it's straight up. They're gonna stream off the cab. We
Hmm.
play on the same setup we always know and love.
Hmm.
Um, Down there, we were trying a lot of stuff to get pad players and alternate stick players on board,
Hmm.
and that seems to have. I don't know if that's been more of a detriment than a positive,
Hmm.
honestly. Like, we had the Raphael issue, and
Well, I think eventually, James is gonna, the proof is gonna be in the pudding,
mhm,
and I'm not ready to kind of, cast any, definitive conclusions right now. But just speaking from experience, um, at next level, we had shout outs to the mod father Cruz, for hooking us up with the undammed decoders. So, basically, I had Cruz install undammed decoders on the versus caps.
right.
Um, as a way to kind of make, it more inviting for pad players. And I mean, I don't really go to next level all the time, right? I don't really go
Mhm.
that regularly, only for jazzy events, really. But yeah, shout outs to Cruz at Cruz Link 2. If someone can type that in the chat. But
The setup seems nice there. I really,
yeah.
I watched the videos and it
Hmm.
looks cool. It looks nice.
But we've had them for I don't know how long. Those undammed decoders,
Not many
and
people use them. Is that what you're going for?
yeah, and so
Yeah.
like okay, so I think now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, so we've you know so despite contention, right? We have begrudgingly kind of decided, okay, we're going to try and accommodate the pad players. Um, but are they still coming out? Are they still,
Right. Do they exist?
yeah? Do they exist,
Yeah.
or is accessibility not really the issue? Like then you start to think, well, then what else is it? You know what I mean? So I
Mm.
don't know if you had any thoughts on that, but because like you were the one who said, you don't know if it was a detriment or a benefit.
I mean, yeah, because the detrimental factor down here, all the tech issues they hold up,
Hmm.
right? They made them. take longer. I mean, that first tournament we had a little scuffle and
Mm-hmm.
drama and whatnot, and it's just I don't know. I mean, accommodating these look, Third Strike kind of works best on stick. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if you are really like you like the game on pad,
Or
if you
hitbox.
took or hitbox, if you take the time to learn it on stick,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of guarantee you'll like it. You know,
That's
I mean, I'm
actually
not
been
gonna win anyone over right now, but like it
that
just
that
feels
that has
like,
been proven by a lot of players, right?
dude, it's this game is very like physical. Like
Mm.
you really move the stick a lot. Like there's a lot going on, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing that on a pad, like dude, your fucking thumb is going crazy. Like I don't I don't think it's a comfortable experience.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I don't know. I mean, it's just I think those guys like are just used to their input device. It's like kind of to be expected nowadays, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because people play on online a lot on
Mm-hmm.
various platforms where they can do that. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, but when you come out, uh, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's worth it anymore.
Mm.
Uh, but I mean, we want more players, so if
Yeah.
it brought in more, it doesn't really like so far for me. We get like a couple more at Wednesday night fights, maybe like 3 guys using pad, a couple guys who like to use their own homes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but like they're not like serious players anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just I don't know, maybe just people see a cab too and think like, oh, I want to try.
Yeah. No, it has that romantic, that romantic appeal, you know what I mean? Like it's that
Yeah, I get to sit down
romanticized,
at the console. I'm the
yeah.
you know like
This
yeah,
romanticized notion of what it was like in the arcade days, you know.
yeah,
But anyway, so like my mindset, and I think I've shared this before with other people, is that I mean, I'm with you, right? Third Strike is you play it on a cab, play it on that. That's
hmm
that's that's ideal,
on
but
stick,
like
on stick.
on
I
stick.
mean, yeah,
But like, but even then, right? Like I can think that, like, okay, like for example, right? I'm just gonna come out here and say it, right? My opinion: Third Strike should not be played on anything but an arcade, but a Japanese arcade cabinet, right? Astro versus Blast, whatever. Okay, I'm entitled to that opinion. That's fine, right? But like, if I really believe that, right, and if I really believe in how godlike the game I play is, right, then it doesn't matter like whether a player comes into the game, using a hitbox or a pad or a fucking flight commander joystick or whatever he wants to use. You know what I'm saying? Bongo
yeah,
drums. Like, if we really believe that the optimal experience of playing competitive Third Strike involves a certain kind of situation, you know what I mean, and hardware, then we just kind of have to have sort of faith that the player will, like you said, right? Even you said it yourself, right, James? Like, players in the past who've started out with pad and then, then they eventually go to stick, and stuff like that. Like, maybe
yeah,
we just need to have faith that these players are just gonna eventually, because they're gonna, and it's up to us, right? Like, the onus is on us, to make sure
mm,
that they understand that there are limitations. Like, if we're right, that there are
yeah.
limitations to using other input devices. It's up to the Third Strike veterans to kind of show them, yeah, that's true. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, like
I
you're right.
agree with it. I
Yeah.
agree with it. I mean, but yeah, it's just like the more the merrier. So
Hmm.
if because to switch, it takes someone some amount of effort and energy, right? Like they're not gonna just like they play on pad all the time. They can't just
uh,
touch a stick and be like, hey, this is
well,
comfortable and I like it.
to me,
So
right? Like when a pad player, the moment a pad player sort of makes that decision, goes, you know what? Maybe I might try using stick in this game. Like, to
yeah.
me, right? To me, that's a sign that the player's like, okay, he seems to really, really be, at least a lot more serious about Third Strike than we thought he was. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And
Well,
like,
yeah.
and we
Third
should be
strike is
able
a
to
lot about barrier.
Yeah, and we should be able to recognize that and go, oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
and just kind of sort of be a little bit more encouraging, I guess, in that regard. I don't know,
Yeah. It
but
would be good.
yeah.
It would be good, but it's really up to the
Well, well,
individual, man.
well, something we were talking about during the break, right? Is and I think I mentioned it in the first segment. You're also part of the ST community. Big part of
Yeah.
the ST scene out there. Um, and you have some, the last few years, there's a few players, offline players that have been, pretty, pretty good on pad, right, or non-traditional controls. And so, how did the ST scene kind of handle that?
Well, the ST scene, quite a while back had there's a guy named Undamned.
Hmm.
He's pretty famous in like the arcade board mod
Yeah, he makes the
community, I guess.
decoders, right?
He
Yeah.
makes the decoders, and he
Uh-huh.
made at the time his setup was strictly for CPS2.
Hmm.
He had like a whole conversion thing, and he basically had man, I hope I'm not wrong on this, but he had like HDMI out and USB encoders on a board all in one, and it was kind of like very compact and elegant for running super turbo tournaments, and we used them for quite a while during like what I would consider the last great period for super turbo, and like they were great. I mean, it was awesome. um but I would say, dude, there it was more about you because we just didn't want to run cabs at tournaments.
Hmm.
No, I actually don't remember a single person using pad except for Snake Eyes at Tournament of Legends
Hmm.
1 and 2. Uh, that's like, I mean, yeah, basically, like, not a lot of people game category, any game made before like 2001.
Hmm.
Uh, the There's not a lot of pad users, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth it. That guy makes dope stuff. It works for anybody.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you play on pad, you could just
Uh-huh.
hop right in. But
Uh-huh.
I didn't see that many.
Well, it seems like maybe what the ST scene did was they just said, "Man, it's not a big deal," right? It just seems like that's kind of what you're describing, right? Like they
They
just,
did.
just
They did. They
they were
did.
just like whatever, right?
They,
Like maybe
they
Third
basically
Strike needs
were
to,
like, well, they kind of got lucky too, though. This was like a really great solution for them.
Hmm.
I mean, it was really awesome for the time. I'm not sure why he didn't make it for other, platforms.
Hmm.
But like it was sick, dude. They would have like these boards that are just like super ready to go.
Hmm.
I mean, our tournaments were very easy to run. Um, yeah, it was awesome. And the scene just went with it. No one complained, but it's a totally different scene too.
Hmm.
Uh, Third Strike is a very unique scene that like ST was just happy to play.
Hmm.
They were very happy to just have tournaments
Yeah, and
ran.
and and the Third Strike scene always seems like it has like a chip on its shoulder, right? Like it's always
It
like.
really does, man. I just there's no easy way to like you can't sugarcoat it. It's just always a very huge entitlement complex. And I love the game too, and this is really the only fighting game I take seriously or play a lot these
Uh-huh.
days. But my God, like there's always something. Um, Yet nowadays I'm almost in the same boat, dude. I
Yeah.
care I care just as much as anyone about like I want to play on like I want to play on a platform where it feels like arcade that I practice on and shit.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I'm just as bad as anyone now. Like it's overtaken me. I'm cursed.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
third strike affluenza. It's
Yeah.
it's hard, man, because the game is weird, dude. Like
Uh-huh.
there are no other games where like I think the hit confirms and just the way like you play the game is
Well,
so
the
like
degree
high
of precision
precision.
and how that precision is tied to, like, there's like precision in the sense of like executing combos, right? Like whatever.
Sure.
I don't want to say whatever. I'm sorry. I don't want to
Well,
denigrate.
but
I don't want
let
to
me
denigrate
even
that complexity. But
let
like,
me interrupt. Like,
yeah,
if you were, dude, ST is a super precise game on some level.
yeah,
However, you could kind of memorize like and like
Can you repeat that again? Sorry, you went out a little bit. Can you repeat that?
ST is a super precise game,
Huh.
but they don't complain. Like you can play on something a little like decoders that lag like even a frame or two, and like they will do the hardest shit. And if they miss it, like maybe they miss it of their own, whatever, like it's a different platform. But for the most part, they kind of adapt and just do it. And like those dudes just make it work. But it's kind of simple because in Third Strike, you're always watching the visual and matching it with your hands, in my opinion. Like there's a very the game really rewards being like at your peak levels or whatever of like what your eyes are seeing or what you're doing. Unlike almost any other game, other games could be in the right position and just kind of know what happened, right? Even if it's a little different or off from what you're used to, you might be able to fudge it because it's just hitting the buttons how you've practiced a million times. Third Strike has those little, nothing is ever the same. So you're always ready for little differences. And again, Third Strike mysticism right there, folks.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but that's kind of tied to kind of what we were talking about earlier, right? And that's, the difficulty for newer players to get into the game because we're already so wound up tight, you know what I mean? Like we're already kind of so, and it's sometimes it can be very difficult to be as inviting when, you sort of start gaining this reputation as being kind of, a scene that sort of is, unwilling to adapt or unwilling to change or unwilling to compromise.
Right.
It's kind of like a snowball effect,
The game, unfortunately, doesn't deserve compromise. Like,
yeah.
when this game's played, like, at not, like, its peak level, it doesn't look the same. It's not the same game.
Yeah, but to me...
is something I've learned over time and respect nowadays. It's definitely something the old like SoCal guys were big about, like just arcade only, and I used to be like, whatever, who cares? But now I'm like, it makes a big difference. You can't do day in and day out playing this game on like a LCD on fucking PlayStation 4 30th. You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, it's but you had to learn that, right? You had to develop that awareness of nuance. And I think when it comes to our approach with newer players, let's it's kind of like, let's not, like, there's a reason why you don't start, high school math with calculus. You know what I'm saying? It's like we don't have to like hit them with the hard shit right away. Like, yo, dog, I'm gonna tell you right now. I know you're interested in this game, this scene Third Strike, but I'm gonna tell you, what they say? It's like this is this and that and this and that. It's like
there's a lot. There's a lot to learn.
You're not really making it all that inviting. You know what I mean? But
at the same time, it makes it pretty cool.
But it also makes it unique, right? Yeah.
Dude, Third Strike is like, because when you really advance or progress, you really feel it, dude. Yeah. There's stuff in other games where finally, I finally kind of like know like my character, or like I'm at the level now where like I recognize this position and I do like an optimal. That's like different in other games because in this game, there's so many situations. Like it's just not a very by the book game. Your mind is always having what do you call it? Like making up like the kind of the gray area of things is like where the game exists. You just always have to come up with unique solutions on the fly, and I don't know. It's just
no, you're right, because of the way the game is is programmed and its mechanics. It's like, to me, I know some players might have made the same comparison, but to me, like a single round of Third Strike consists of like, and this obviously depends on the level of each player, but a single round of Third Strike consists of so many multiple little games, right? And the higher level player you play, right, those games increase in a sense. I don't know if that makes any sense. But and maybe that's why, it feels that way, right? Like there's always Like you're always gotta think. You're always gotta, you always gotta.
You always have to think, dude. You
Yeah.
can't just map out like or practice something, some little situation, little string, little like setup. It's not enough like in this game. And people talk about auras and stuff. Like try to play against some of the best players. It
Mm-hmm.
really will press you.
Mm-hmm.
You will feel lost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good feeling. Like
Yeah.
you really want to like figure it out and be
Yeah.
like, wow, back to the drawing board, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great game.
So, before we take our second and final break, I just kind of wanted to make this other point. It's like, to me, it's, maybe we should just let these young guns learn, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe we should just let them kind of sometimes,
On
as
some
opposed
level,
to,
there's no other way.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're gonna lose,
yeah.
kind of. Like I don't even think the level third strike technically is that high in America. Like the amount of really good players to intermediate players to like right below
Mm-hmm.
intermediate, like there's not a ton. Like if you wanted to get good at this game, it's not that insurmountable.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to put time in and mental. Like you got to think about this game a lot
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to get it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I think, just kind of let the young guns learn, but at the same time, just kind of let them know, that if they need any, if they want help, or if they have questions, that people like Big Game James is here, right?
hey, I try to help. Yeah, I really
You
do.
know, but yeah, man, I think that's something that we have to definitely think about in the future. But before we leave, before we leave for our second break, shout outs to Sky, aka Bungus, Dare Productions.
Yeah, dude,
You know,
Bungus is real cool.
dude, like,
He does his best.
despite all of the issues, it's growing pains, you know what I mean? And these guys are very, very young, and the fact that they have been able to put on, along obviously with the help of Arliath, Tom, where would Jazzy West be without Tom? Together, they've been able to put on a string of jazzy events. I mean, obviously there's been some hiccups. There's been some some challenges, but as far as from like a viewer standpoint, they've been all really, really entertaining, and just wanted to send a shout outs to everybody at Wednesday Night Fights. Shout outs to Valle for, allowing us to play in their house.
I
And
wish Vaya
so,
would enter, man.
dude,
I just want
Valle,
to bop him at the
I always felt like,
game.
like, there's no way, I've never like asked him this or confirmed this, but I always felt like Valle was peer pressured into not playing Third Strike. I don't like. I'm not gonna like. It's just a feeling, that I had back in the day when I used to play him. Like, and I used to go to tournaments and he used to be there and play Third Strike. Like, I just like I don't know. Like, I've never asked him personally what he thought about the game. I don't know. Maybe you have, but like I've never asked him what his opinion of this game is. But I always felt like he wanted to play more, but like I don't know. I don't know.
I
But
think, yeah, I don't know either, man. I don't played him in full games,
yeah.
but just those guys have a very. I know how like some of them feel, and they don't like certain aspects, and
Uh-huh.
they didn't want to adapt a lot to the game. Like
Uh-huh.
I mean, to still use SA1 Ryu. I actually, for some reason, like in my YouTube recommend
Uh-oh.
a Pyroly Valle match from like '06 popped up
Uh-huh.
from one of the FFA ran bats,
Uh-huh.
and he makes it a close 2-1,
Hmm.
and close using SA1 Ryu, but he really plays the game. It's not respecting certain aspects of the game, and
Hmm.
and I think that's what really like I don't know. Third strike's frustrating. Like you get to those points where like you can't do what you want to do. Like you have to respect the game and say, "Oh, I could get parried
Hmm.
or whatever." And if you feel like, "Oh, this is a great I'm picking amazing spots to just hit the right button,"
Hmm.
and it repeatedly is not a good spot,
Hmm.
you get kind of frustrated and don't really
Hmm.
like the game much. I think those old school guys are like that.
Mm.
It doesn't play out like other games. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. Well, every game is different, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and take our second final break, but when we come back, more Mutant Experience podcast with Big Game James. Don't go anywhere, guys. All right. How's it going, guys? Mutant XP back with more Mutant XPerience podcast with my special guest tonight, Red Venom, aka Big Game James. So, James.
Yep.
I wanted to do a little thought experiment with you. Kind of keep you on your toes here.
All right.
Okay.
Man, your window's not showing up though. If we do the
is
thing
it?
later.
Oh yeah. Let me share that. It's okay. I can do that. I got you.
Cool.
I got you. All right. You see it? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Just there you go. Right. See it now?
No.
No.
Huh. Yeah, it's just black now. Your
Oh, okay.
your view.
Let me
Let me try one time.
Let me try one more time. One more time. No, nothing? Wow. That's weird. I'll call you back again.
It's weird. It just shows like a little loading thing.
Yeah, probably the internet connection's getting kind of fuzzy here. But we'll try to fix it as the show goes on. But once again, guys, I am back with Big Game James, Mutant XPerience podcast. And so, James, I want to do a thought experiment with you.
Okay.
All right. So,
it's on your mind.
Okay. So, in your estimation, who are the 5 greatest Japanese third strike players of all time?
Oh my
Give me
gosh.
5 of them. Give me 5 of them.
5.
And help me out, chat. Type these names as James runs down the list.
No order?
No order.
Daigo, KO, Deshiken, Nuki, MOV.
Okay. So we got who do we got? We got okay, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with my mouse. Okay. We got Daigo, Deshiken, KO, Nuki, and MOV. All right. Okay. So
that's so biased, but yeah.
That's right.
Yakun also. Can we have 6?
No, you gotta have 5. Okay. So some alien race comes down, right? And they visit your house and they go, James, we're gonna blow up the earth.
Okay.
And the only way you could stop us from blowing up the earth is if you play one game against one of these 5 third strike players. And if you win, you save the earth.
Yeah.
Which player? And you have to play these players at their peak, okay? Not like, 2020 Daigo or whatever, right? Like at their peak.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean I would still
Yes, the aliens are stoners. The aliens are stoners.
Even though I think his play back in the day was very like efficient and great, probably just pull out something crazy.
Dude, what do you guys think, chat? Do you think the Earth gets saved? Do you think James can pull it out against Daigo? Ken Mirror?
Long Island Joe from like 10 years ago.
Wait, would you use Oro or Ken?
I would use Ken.
Oh my gosh!
It's no problem.
James!
Like, he's not going to deal with like offense.
This is James right here just going, what? Daigo? Free.
He's definitely not someone you want to clutch. I don't know. But then again, everybody else there's a fucking just a nightmare. Like, are they part of the alien people?
They go galaxy hopping, dog. They look for the third strike players. Oh man, dude, I'd like to see you versus Daigo. That'd be pretty cool. One game, woo.
Yeah.
One game.
I like to play all.
Yeah.
I played Neiman. He came down a while back.
Uh-huh.
I think Frankie's really good, so
I'll
play him sometime soon.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, James. You know, you're a Ken main.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think about the? I mean, you know, I've heard widely varying opinions about the Ken mirror match, right? You know,
I love it. I think it's a
yeah,
really great mirror match.
That's chapter 17 in the Third Strike Mysticism Bible, right? You know, the fact that Ken mirrors is like, you know, that people that like that opinion that like Ken mirrors is like,
it's
that's
boring,
like,
or it's really cool,
or it's like the benchmark of how good of a, you know what I'm saying? Like it's always one or the other, dude. But what do you think about the Ken mirror?
It really is a benchmark, dude. Like, there's no doubt that, like, if you're really good at the game, you should be able to play the matchup really well. I mean, if you don't play Ken at all, like, you get a pass, right?
Okay.
But, you know, because some people don't. Some people are just, like, good at this game outside of, like, learning certain characters, right? But the Ken mirror is very, like, don't get me wrong, like, you don't have to take one line too seriously, because you can lose to some random stuff too. But generally, like, it's a matchup that lets you show a lot of different skills in the game, defense and offense, a lot of technical skills as well. I mean, I think it's a great matchup. I'm not gonna say like I love to play in like a tournament setting, but it's a good matchup, and I like it a lot. So I love to play it.
And so, okay, so here's another scenario for you, James.
Yeah.
Okay. So the aliens come to Earth, and they say, James, we're gonna blow up the Earth, but we're gonna blow it up tomorrow.
I think, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So you have 24 hours before the Earth blows up.
Okay.
And you and the aliens are like, you can have the 24 hours, but you have to play Third Strike in those 24 hours before they blow up the world.
That's the final.
Because if you don't play Third Strike, they're just gonna blow up the world.
The game, so
okay.
Yeah.
So, and you can only choose one player to play Third Strike with those last 24 hours of the Earth's history.
2v2?
No, just one. No, it was just you and the other player
to play with.
To play with, just on a cab, just you guys in a room sitting down. You have 24 hours before the aliens blow up the world. Who would that player be?
Oh my god!
Okay.
This question is insane.
It is, right?
I could take the best player, like a person who I think is just, you know, like, I'm gonna play like all day with Tominaga. Try my best, you know. Man, I don't know, you know, like people who I really had good matches with and really like to play. In my personal life would be B-Tran, Rennick. Like these are guys who 5-star as well. Like I really like to play him.
Okay. So here. Let's make it.
Let's play those guys.
No. Let's make the question a little simpler because I think I get what you're saying, right? Like it's not just about like skill level; it's about like personality.
Right. We would be playing a match for the end of the.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Yeah. You're truly the best. Is the last thing we would say.
Yeah. So here's a slightly. Here's a slight modification to the question. So you have 48 hours before the world ends, right? But the first 24 hours you have to play Third Strike. You have to spend the first 24 hours. Does that make the question a little easier? Because at least you can use those last 24 hours for whatever you want to do, you know. But
okay. Well, I mean, you know, still.
So yeah, 2 days.
It's like, I mean, there's so many players to pick from, dude.
You have to pick one, man. Pick one.
Would you pick it like for yourself? Would you pick it based on a matchup you like to play? Because I would pick like a player like Nuke for the final frontier of like, I think he's the best player that's ever played the game with the best character.
Yeah.
Right. And like, if I were to play a bazillion matches against this guy, you know, I wouldn't really learn. I don't know. Like it would be like a test. Yeah. Could I finally like figure it out a little bit?
Yeah.
Or would I just be having fun with someone who's like a buddy of mine?
I think I'm more in the latter camp, you know?
Yeah, me too. I would definitely pick someone who's just
Yeah.
like, we'll have some laughs,
Yeah.
enjoy the game before it all explodes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you were a good sport for those hypothetical questions, James. I appreciate it. But I don't know about your list, man.
Well, those are just people I like to play, man.
No, I mean, the 5 greatest
Oh,
Japanese
the
third strike
five?
players.
That's.
Um,
I'm just saying, in my mind,
yeah,
like I know there are people better than. Well, I don't know. I also picked pretty. Dude, you can't really fuck with
Oh,
KO
I have another hypothetical.
MOV and Nuki. Dude.
Okay,
That's like,
I have
you
another
probably
hypothetical
give
situation.
me because I like his play a lot.
Okay. So I have another hypothetical situation. This is gonna be really sick. So those 5 greatest Japanese third strike players that you listed, right? Mm-hmm. Aliens come to the planet. They're like, James, we're gonna blow up the planet unless you can beat the 5 greatest Japanese third strike players of all time in a co-op style, one series, one match.
Yeah.
Okay. There'll be a question 2B though. So it's just Pokemon style, one match. Who are your 4 teammates? You got to be on the team. Who are your 4 teammates? Yeah. Dude, this is a set to decide the world, man. So who's?
I mean, I'm just picking my homies.
I'm gonna let you decide, dude. Japanese, American, Saudi Arabian, French. It could be any.
I have to have NG.
NG Mark.
Like one game, Mark could definitely beat anyone on Earth. not even on Earth.
Other galaxies.
Yes, many galaxies.
Maybe Mark is secretly one of these third strike aliens that.
I think he is. Yeah, pretty much. Dude, he's asked me, "Is this game made by aliens?" Super high, and I think he's right. Like, how is this game? Yeah, this game is like some otherworldly stuff. So he's definitely on the team.
Okay, NG Mark. All right.
SoCal figureheads probably be on there. I could do a 5-star, a Pyroly or something. Maybe I don't know, dude. I don't get to play enough against the other
Tenren
big boys in the world. Oh, dude, Tenren, yeah. He also will. Tenren probably actually just OCDs. We'll throw Tenren out first.
Tenren saves the world. That's a great name for a B movie. Tenren saves the world.
He definitely does.
Oh man!
Actually, that's
okay.
The end of the discussion.
So version B of this question, right? Is the team the same if you were to face the same 5 greatest Japanese players in a round robin?
A round robin?
Yeah. Would your team change, or would you stick with the same players?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. You could make. It wouldn't be exactly the same, but like close enough.
Okay.
Because again, I don't know like the East Coast guys to play with, so it's just my boys here, people who I think are really good. I mean,
definitely.
I like the question though, because
3S aliens, dude. I think that's the key. So when the term galaxy brain, right, is very fitting.
It is, dude. It's always felt super like. I understood it the first time I heard it, and just from years of watching Kaz and Mark play their galaxy matches for the galaxy.
I just thought of a great segment, and I don't know if you'd be interested in it. I'm just kind of riffing now in the podcast. I have absolutely nothing left on my agenda. But like would you be interested in coming back on the podcast, like in like kind of like a Mythbusters like segment, like where you like dispel popular myths about Third Strike, and not just about the scene, right, but like the game, like the actual game,
I take that part of the game more seriously these days.
Mythbusters
and if
Big Game James.
My own ego is probably out of control. point, but like I consider myself an expert on it, dude. People
Okay.
ask about like hit confirms things like
Uh-huh.
possible in the game, and I
Uh-huh.
think like I'm a definitive source
Uh-huh.
on some level.
Okay. So Menosaur has a question already for you in the chat, dude.
Okay,
He
all
says,
right,
James, is OS Perry the answer to everything?
it is. It is. You just OS Perry, dude. OS Perry life.
OS Perry life.
That's
Oh
all you can
man,
do.
that's funny. Well,
OS Perry is great though.
yeah,
Like what a amazing thing in this game. The
yeah,
problem is OS Perry doesn't deal with situations. You need space for
uh-huh,
OS Perry to be good. You
yeah,
know, like people who play this heavy know what I'm talking about, but
mm-hmm.
you can't OS Perry realistically if there's not much time.
All right. So speaking of that, I know we're sort of approaching the end of the stream here, and can you see my? I think you can see it now, right?
Oh yeah, I can now.
Awesome, awesome.
Cool, cool.
So you know, as a 3S expert, James, um,
Sure.
I'm not really sure if this next segment of our show. I don't really know if this next segment in our show is gonna be if you're gonna enjoy it or if you're just gonna or if maybe you're gonna throw up or whatever. But as some of you may know, every time on the Mutant XPerience podcast, I like to highlight some of the more eccentric examples of third strike play. and
I like
so
how Menno just asked the cabs in the background are
yeah,
my cabs, and no, I would say this is actually a green screen.
yeah.
This is fake. This is
Yeah,
footage.
it's all blue. It's all blue screen, right? Yeah, green screen.
Blue screen.
Blue screen since you use blue Ken, right?
ILM and everything in the background is,
Yeah. I also like
G.
I also like blue Ken. For Matsuken.
Dude, blue Ken is sick, man.
Dude, blue Ken is sick, dude.
And Matsuken is dope.
Dude, he's too.
I wish he could, surpass Deshiken.
Yeah.
I believe in him personally.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and obviously the segment I'm referring to is Pack It Up.
Sure.
You had confided to me in the past, James, that you're a fan of the podcast, and so I'm pretty sure you can you know what to expect here. But has there ever been a clip of Pack It Up where you've just watched it and you just been like, man, like has it just like has there ever been a clip that just kind of like destroyed your faith in humanity? Just like
dude, I'm a pretty anybody a little bit of I take it seriously. I get pretty heated personally. Like I don't tend to like people, but I'm very I can get kind of animated and I'm pretty serious. Sometimes I watch the Pack It Up clips and I think if that was me, like I would pack it up. I would just quit the game. I mean,
well, and just to reiterate, the views of Big Game James do not necessarily reflect those of the Jazzy.
No, of course, dude. I've had so many huge. I think you're gonna show you've leaked Pack It Up ideas to me, and maybe we're gonna see me getting packed up. But it's like, sometimes we make big mistakes. I don't know, man.
No, well, whatever. Well,
every week, every day.
Well, rest assured, James. Whatever mistakes you've made in Third Strike the last couple of weeks, they weren't as egregious as these 5 mistakes that we're about to see. So, without further ado, guys. Oh wait, James left. He really doesn't want to watch Pack It Up. All right, so James he's gotta hydrate before we watch this. So, without further ado, guys, here's this week's edition of Pack It Up. All right. Nominee number 1.
Where all these are from?
Yeah. Nominee number 1. This is from the last Logan Arcades tournament. 4C Joe has a chance to finish a boost. But he still manages to win the round. It's one of those unique pack it up clips where both people fucked up, and so it's.
Yeah, he didn't bother mashing. I don't know. He would have lost.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah, never give up.
Never give up.
So nominee number 2. Shout outs to Portland for running their first Jazzy. But Versaga, who actually won the tournament, I think sort of misjudged the superhero.
Oh, I've done that for sure.
That's pretty far though. Yeah. Nominee number 3. Yo, Scrub Series holding it down, but Mash Legs, I mean, what are you doing? I just don't even like. I don't even have anything for this. Like, and you can just see
Ruby. Who's won?
What,
Ken?
the Ken? No, the Ken player was Urian player was Mash Legs. Ken player was Big Bad Wolf. All right, Katie Alpha, you gotta stop appearing on Back It Up, man.
Back it up, God. Back it up.
You gotta stop appearing on it. This is the second week in a row, dude. You gotta clean that shit up. Oh my god.
But also, why would you do that?
Because he read that Big Nasty was gonna dash.
But
yeah, I know. But in terms of never giving up, James.
Oh, this one.
You know. Dude. What happens?
Now, Vito is a.
Oh man.
Honestly, because you sped up the last part of that, it's the sensation for this. Like, first of all, Van cracked completely.
Yeah.
To go for that super, and he did it earlier in the set as well. But the thing is, like with Vito, is that he's not. He's really good, dude. Anybody who plays with him like a bit knows that like he's pretty. Like his skill set is really nice right now, helping him all the time.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun to see him get better. But he came up on a situation where he didn't know the right.
Because he probably has never had to punish that before, maybe.
Exactly. Like, you don't really play a lot of Yang. I mean, just in general. I mean, we've all been there. Where like, oh, I don't know the right way to fucking deal with this. You go with something safe. It misses. And, I mean, that was a brutal one. I really wanted, even though, like, I really like both those guys. Van is actually one of my favorite players in SoCal, and he just doesn't get to play enough. But yeah, that was a.
But it's it's a learning experience.
That's the most legit one there because it truly is what happens. Like both those guys are super skilled, and
but
Alpha one is also pretty bad.
But the thing is with the Fito one.
I mean, no disrespect to
you. With the Fito one, I mean, you gotta recognize, Yang has no life. So just press a button. Just press a button.
Hit a medium punch.
Yeah,
exactly.
Press a button.
Medium kick. Anything.
But it's like I said, it's
the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
It is funny though. Like he had probably 2 seconds to think about and just walk forward to throw, and it's like you didn't need to throw that.
Yeah.
But just tell that to the person in the moment. Vito confided in me after, even though he seemed really fine in the moment. He was really upset about that loss, and it's also like a lesson for people who play these games to know that everybody really, if you're taking it seriously and you're trying your best, like know that we've all been there, and that shit will fuck you up. Like honestly, it'll make you want to quit. It's like I fucking suck, and you don't. You missed. You didn't have the right information at that moment to do the right thing, and it's harsh.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I like that one though. That was, dude, I was on the edge of my seat. I was standing right next to one.
Yeah, that's rough. But you know what, James?
And then
people think, yeah. I mean, people think I'm just trolling, but dude, since it seems like the theme of this podcast has been kind of, how do, one of the things is, how do we transfer what we've learned to future generations? That's what Pack It Up is, man. It's just a teaching tool, dog. It's just to hold people accountable.
Really don't want to you don't want to make yourself.
And to be honest, since I started Pack It Up, I think the level of play in America has bumped up a few percentage points in cleanness. I think, not a lot, but like it's getting there. So I think,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, to segue out of that, America, one of the big problems is that you have a lot of mistakes like that all the time, and an issue is the level, the optimization level is just not high enough. Like, but we're all working at it. What can we do? Making the best of it. I wish more people would really think about, Third Strike is a really hard game. I give that to anybody who competes at it, anybody who wants to get better. Very tough game. But when I still watch intermediate, newer players, I think, man, why would you punish something with a throw in this game? Everything in this game is about doing the biggest move possible, because that's what the game sets you up for, always. So learn your best combos, always do those. If sometimes you miss the combo or whatever, that's better than just punishing everything with small ass, punish something with a jab or a throw. That's not going to get you anywhere. This game's about 3 moves and you win.
Yeah, I've been saying it a lot lately, but the biggest takeaway when I went to Japan was efficiency. They're just so efficient, and we have to also play efficient,
Daisuke talked about it. He came over here, he visited. He was talking about it. 5-star talks about it. I really respect it in the last few years. I see it. You can't play this game not focusing on that, because it's how you become high level. Otherwise, you're just hoping people make enough mistakes that
But again, guys,
the game plan works.
We've managed to contradict ourselves in the span of an hour, but but we don't want to scare you guys, you young guns. You'll get there. You'll get there eventually.
Play the game.
Yeah,
if it's fun, keep playing.
Definitely. So, James, before we go, is there anything you want to say, or anybody you want to shout out before we get out of here?
Oh, man, just shout out to the whole SoCal scene. Fito for missing that punish. Bitran, Kaz, Boiler Crew. Everybody who just keeps things going. Really appreciate Don and.
Shout outs to all our venue providers.